Hey guys, welcome to Project Metal Music's YouTube channel. With me, Ell Yong, your host, and we are here with Mr. Gregg Fox of Renaissance Rock Orchestra. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you,
Uh,
Al. It's nice to be
can you?
here. And hello to everybody out there in Project Music Metal. Yeah, metal music, Project Metal Music. I got it backwards, didn't I?
Yeah. So, could you introduce yourself and what you do?
Well, I am the keyboard player, composer, and creator of the Renaissance Rock Orchestra here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Originally from Seattle, Washington. I came up playing in a lot of bands up in the Seattle area, my home. And I've been here in Las Vegas for about 10 years. And while I've been here, I have some pretty amazing opportunities happening. And I've had a chance to play with some remarkable talent and very well-known rock musicians. And that has led me to this collaboration with multiple musicians in the Renaissance Rock Orchestra. And this music that I write and create, it's very much a symphonic metal type of genre. And, you're going to hear influences by everything from Led Zeppelin to Queen to possibly even some Elton John in there somewhere. But basically, it's a metal project. And the amount of guitar players that have worked in the project, the names, when I actually start dropping the names about everybody that's been on the last few albums, it's pretty impressive. So I've had just a great time being here in Las Vegas and some amazing opportunities. I had sailed my sailboat around the Bahamas for about 7 years prior to 2010 when I moved here, which was an amazing experience in itself. And it led me to a lot of decisions and changed a lot of things about me as a person that led me to creating the Renaissance Rock Orchestra. But so when I got off the sailboat, I first of all moved to Venice Beach, California. It had a beautiful place on the Grand Canal, which was pretty exciting and fun. And I, at that point, began writing a lot of music of my own. And within 30 days of moving to Venice Beach, Foreigner asked me to go on tour with them. Now, I didn't actually end up going on that tour, but I did program all my keyboards and synthesizers to do the tour, and they literally told me that the sounds were better than the sounds on the record. So that was kind of a nice thing to hear from them. And sadly, I didn't have a chance to do that. Although about 2 months ago, my first COVID concert since things have kind of opened up a bit here in the States was down in Phoenix, Arizona. It was an event put on by Alice Cooper. And I was invited to be the keyboard player for the band Asia, featuring John Payne. And so that was an enormous amount of fun, learning those songs and programming those songs. And at that concert, I was lucky enough to be able to actually play for Lou Gramm from Foreigner. We did about 6 Foreigner songs. And wow, what a bucket list moment that was to be playing for Lou Gramm from Foreigner, something that I never thought would happen in my life. And it was pretty cool hanging out with Alice, seeing the Alice show. Strangely enough, with all the musicians I know and the history that I have from the Seattle days, working with most of the musicians in the band Heart in different formulations and doing some things for Queensryche and bands like that, I had never over the years met Alice. And so it was awesome to meet Alice. He's a very, very cool guy. Very, very kind man, funny guy. And hanging out with him and his wife, Cheryl, for about 20 minutes was pretty fun. I've been telling everybody the story about that because we were sitting down pre-show when I had a chance to meet Alice. And we talked for about 20 minutes. And I was talking about the new record with his wife, Cheryl, who is just an awesome, awesome person. And they both kind of have a bit of a ministry through rock and roll and music in Phoenix, and they're very involved in a lot of community things. And she was talking about a lot of those things, and I was sharing my COVID record, my last release, which is called A Song of Hope 2020, which you can hear on YouTube, and we're slowly releasing the songs on Spotify. But the title track, A Song of Hope, is a pretty inspiring song, and I've gotten comments from people around the world about how it's helped them deal with COVID and the things they experienced in their lives, the isolation, the loss of family members, loss of income, and people losing their homes, things like that. So a Song of Hope is very inspirational. I was telling her about that, and the food arrived. It was time for our food. The hospitality arrived, and so I said, "Well, I'm going to excuse you guys and let you have your dinner in peace here." And I walked away, maybe 10 or 15 feet to the couch there, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh my God, that was Alice Cooper." Right? And I was texting one of my friends going, "Oh my God, I was just sitting talking to Alice Cooper. I'm not worthy." And it made me laugh when I thought about the movie, of course, and it was so much like, in some ways, like the movie. But I had to go back over and tell Alice about it, and he got a good kick out of it, because the funny thing is, my last record, A Song of Hope 2020, the bass player is a bass player by the name of Greg Smith, who played with Alice and toured with Alice for years. And Alice went on to tell me all these wonderful stories and funny stories about them being on the road together and playing poker a lot. They played poker a lot, not for big money, but I know that Alice is a pretty good poker player. And at one point, Greg Smith, my bass player, ended up actually beating him on one occasion. And Alice gave him this trophy that is like made out of Miller cans, but it's like this tall, right? So it's like a full-on trophy. And so he got a kick telling me about those stories, and I sure enjoyed hearing them. Greg Smith, as long as we're talking about Greg, he has played for, besides Alice Cooper, he's played for Ted Nugent, Alan Parsons, Dokken, Rainbow, Billy Joel, the Turtles, Tommy James and the Shondells. Unbelievable pedigree of bands that we all know and love. So to have him on a record was really an amazing thing, and I'm so grateful to Greg for doing it. He wrote some very, very brilliant bass parts to this symphonic metal, which is at times somewhat complex, but we'll talk a little bit more about the stylings and the genres over all of our records maybe in a little bit here, because we have 3 releases out. And on this record, I went a little bit more commercial, a little bit more melodic rock, a little bit more of that AOR sound. You'll hear things that sound very, very much like Queen. Other than the vocal is done by Mark Bowles, the singer from Malmsteen's Trilogy album, who also toured with Ted Nugent. You'll hear Queen sounds. The first track that we released off the record is something called "In My Lovin' Arms," and on "In My Lovin' Arms," the style and the sound is at times Van Halen-y, with the keyboards. That period of time when Eddie was adding the keyboards to the Van Halen sounds. And it has a little bit of a Dream Theater sound to it too. And oh my God, the guitar on that was done by Michael James Romeo from Symphony X. Michael's been rated one of the top 10 metal guitar players in the world. And he is phenomenal. It opens up with this brilliant, blazing arpeggio sound that moves into the track. And then it's this big, magnificent opus of a chorus melodic hook and the solo on it. You have to go to Spotify or YouTube, Renaissance Rock Orchestra in both cases, and hear "In My Lovin' Arms." Your mind will be blown by Michael James Romeo on that track, "In My Lovin' Arms." He's a brilliant songwriter, of course, as you probably know from Symphony X, if you're familiar with their music. But also he does a lot of film work and soundtracks, and he's even better at that. It's crazy. I don't know how film composers do it, because I'm very proud of my music, and it does get outside of the box and is very complex and melodic. But the way film composers will move from one feeling and one emotion into another emotion so quickly, like in a matter of 5 or 10 seconds, and be able to get it to blend is really fascinating to me. So and Michael James Romeo is brilliant at that.
So let's get into some little bit of history about Gregg Fox. As a kid, what were you basically listening to
Well, I grew up a church kid in a very religious family, and my mom was the organist, my dad was the choir director, and my entire family, me and my sister and my mom and dad, would sing in quartets all the time. So, of course, my first influence was church music and gospel music, but more traditional church music, which has a lot of standard traditional, almost classical music feel to it, because it was written by all the old composers that wrote that material too. And so that was it. But when I first started getting into rock and roll, and I wasn't allowed to listen to it early on, but of course you can always hear it on the radio and this and that. And I, of course, loved Elton John, because my mom and dad got me learning piano at 5. I had 12 years of lessons, and then went on to get my degree in college and university. But so Elton John, of course, was a great thing, and everything that you heard on the radio was so brilliant. But when I first really kind of grabbed onto something that I was a huge fan of, and that I loved, it was Led Zeppelin. You know what? Actually, before that, Steely Dan.
Yeah.
I loved Steely Dan music. I still love Steely Dan to this day, and have the opportunity to see them fairly often as they come to Las Vegas and do shows here. And I just have always loved their music, how introspective the lyrics are, and the complexity also of the music really inspired me a lot, because of my musical background, and also in school I had played violin in the orchestra, so I've always been fascinated with strings and orchestras and symphonies, and love that sound and the majesty of it, the epic sound of it. And so that's obviously influenced my music a lot too, is playing in orchestras. But yeah, Led Zeppelin was one of my first. Steely Dan first, then probably Led Zeppelin. And I've had some remarkable experiences over the years meeting those band members, and actually having them get on stage and perform with me. Some great stories there. But more to the influences, being a keyboard player, and getting into rock and roll and loving it all. And there was so many that I was into. Of course, I was into everything that was rock and roll, whether it had keyboards in it or not. But at a certain point, I fell in love with Jethro Tull. And
Yeah.
I'm still a huge fan of Jethro Tull. And John Evans' keyboard work, and just everything about the music fascinated me, because it had all those classical influences and lots of keyboards into it. So I had a huge Jethro Tull stage. But of course, Yes also was just a ginormous influence on me. And when I found out about and started listening to Yes, I was completely smitten. And to this day, Yes is my favorite band. And I listen to it often. I find it uplifting and inspiring in so many ways. And there's never been a combination of musicians that have created something so unique and so unusual in music. It's an animal that is completely different than so many other things. Of course, with the Led Zeppelin thing, I loved the big symphonic moments, the Kashmir moments, things that had the strings in it. And I still get to play that stuff a lot. I have a band that plays here in Las Vegas, and it's a Led Zeppelin tribute show called the Moby Dick's Led Zeppelin All Stars. And in that band, I have the drummer from Whitesnake and Foreigner, the bass player from Ozzy and Billy Idol, and the singer Chaz West was actually in the band Bonham with Jason Bonham. And right now, we've gone through a number of guitar players over the years that included Doug Aldridge from Whitesnake, and who's now in the Dead Daisies. And currently, we have Christian Brady from Hell Yeah playing guitar. But so it amazes me that at this point in my life, so many years later, that I get to play that music, and that I love it as much then as I did now. And we pack this place. We play here at the Best Rock club here in Las Vegas called Vamps. It's owned by Danny Coker, the Count, who also has a TV show here in the U.S. called Counting Cars on the History Channel. And So yeah, we play there. As a matter of fact, we're doing a show there July 23rd and 24th, 2 nights, Friday and Saturday, and that will be the first time back together with those guys since COVID. We were actually going to do a show the week that COVID landed on all of our lives back in March of 2020. And so it's going to be fun to get together and to do all that material again. And yeah, it's just a remarkable thing that music has stood up so much. Music that was by the critics completely destroyed, and they never got any credits from the critics or Rolling Stone magazine back in the day for who they were and what they did. And yet that has stood the test of time so well. And yeah, so it's a remarkable experience that I get to do that. It's just kind of a side thing that I do that is awfully fun.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of bands that have been like a massive influence on like being a big fan of, like Steely Dan, Led Zeppelin, and Yes, and even Jethro Tull. Were those like very instrumental on what you would become today?
That's a bit of a difficult question. All those bands have a lot of instrumental music. They have instrumental tracks, and there's sections and pieces of their music that are all instrumental. And of course, even though they've all had their hits over the years, whether you want to make it even Living in the Past, a full instrumental piece by Jethro Tull was a big hit here in the States. Yeah, did very, very well. And of course, Bungle in the Jungle, not one of my favorites, but it was another one of their Tull's ongoing hits. And with Yes, of course, you have Roundabouts, and then when they got into the 80s, and they created a different sound with Trevor Rabin, there was a lot of great hits from that record too, and the names of those hits right now escape me. But do you remember any of them, Ell? Do you remember those big hits from the 80s with Yes? What were they?
Yeah, no, you're asking. I know John Anderson had a few hits with Tangerine Dream, especially off the movie Legend.
Right, yeah, you're going way back on that. Nice.
1985, that I think.
Amazing. Yeah, that's pretty impressive that you know that. Yeah, because you're not necessarily a big Yes fan, probably. No. Yeah.
I know of Yes, and I know some of the songs. I'm sort of like a fan of some of their songs. I know when Ridley. Ridley. I think it's either Ridley or one of the Scott brothers who directed Legend asked Tangerine Dream, and Tangerine Dream asked John Anderson to come in to do a couple of songs with him.
Awesome. Yeah, very, very cool stuff. And of course, he did some work with Vangelis too. Of course, for me, with my classical background and all my piano training, the progressive side just really became a huge, huge part of my life. And I've still enjoyed a lot of, hard rock music and intense, powerful metal bands over the years, whether it's Guns N' Roses or Metallica or whatever it might be. But, from that record, and what was the record? Was it 90125? No, that's not it. But very close. Rhythm of Love was a big one. I think there was a song off that record called Change 2. That was pretty big back in the 80s. And that was an interesting period of time. Back in that period of time, I was working with the guitar player and the drummer from Hearts in the Seattle area, Roger Fisher and Mike DeRozier, who wrote Barracuda. And we were so excited because that's when CDs came out, right? And just the sound quality, of course, was mind-blowing to us compared to cassettes and records. Of course, that's a whole huge discussion that we can get into about the warmth of vinyl versus the digital sound of CDs. But yeah, it was interesting to hear so many things, and the sonic quality in many ways improved, and in other ways fell short by its lack of warmth. But yeah, I remember the first time and it was that Yes record that we listened to one of my first CDs that we ever heard. We went out to his car, and Roger said, "Come on, you've got to hear this. It's a CD. You're not going to believe the way this sounds." How funny is that?
Yeah.
But you know what? Kind of an interesting thing about that whole point, sadly, is what is happening with music and the formats that we listen to music on. Because as Napster came into play and other digital services and MP3s became what we listen to so much on so many of these formats, everything went completely the opposite direction. You know, in the old days, in our homes, we all had these gigantic stereo systems with these great everything. We had the amps and the turntables, and you tried to get the best, and everything was loud. We listened to our music loud, and it's kind of rare anymore. Of course, most people nowadays listen to music on their computer speakers or on their phones, right? And the MP3 is such a horrible format for us to hear our music in, because it's like a fluorescent light bulb compared to the sun. It's so flat, and we lose so much high end and so much low end. And so it's sad that we've kind of trained the youth of today to think that that is what music is, and that's all they care about, and that they don't even know how much better a CD is, or a huge stereo system that plays vinyl, you know, on a turntable. And so yeah, that is sadly unfortunate growth in music and technology, that we've gone that direction, and it doesn't really have the quality, and we don't hear it on the great systems. Right? Doesn't that kind of piss you off?
Yeah, big time. Thankfully, one of my nephews, actually several of my nephews, I've been sort of like teaching the ways of the music, whether to actually go to like vinyl records.
Sure.
One of them is actually started to get like really big into vinyl records.
Nice.
Like buying these coming up to 19 now.
And there's nothing like a vinyl record. You know, let's be honest. You hold it in your hands, and of course, because of the sleeve, the artwork involved was a huge part of how it affected you emotionally and mentally, and the things you learned about the music and about the artists and how it was recorded. You know, that was a whole thing about being into music. Of course, back in those days, we weren't being bombarded by information coming from every angle, and there weren't a million bands and a million other things, and there wasn't the internet, and there wasn't computer games. So music was it. So it was the defining force in all of our lives. You know, what is there to do? We're not going to sit at home on the computer. We're going to go to this concert. Check this album out. Yeah, come over to my house, play it. No, come over to my house. I have a better stereo. You're not going to believe it. Mom and Dad aren't home. When we blast these through the console, it's going to blow your mind. So, but yeah, that whole physical thing. And there's a certain thing about touching that product, that thing, that is so magical. And I miss it. So it's really cool that vinyl is making a bit of a return. Of course, it will never take over with the technology that's in place now. But yeah, it has had a big upsurge in the last few years. I've seen several reports in industry magazines about what a large upturn it is. And it's significant enough that it matters. And so I can't wait to have some of the Renaissance Rock Orchestra music, our 3 records, actually burned onto vinyl, so that we have vinyl options for all of our fans and all of our collectors.
And I know that I've just read a report, I think it was on the BBC website, where in 2017 there was about 700,000 record sales.
Nice. Yeah.
Now today it's 4.8 million.
Nice. Excellent. Well, that's very good. Right. Yeah. About 5 times as much as 2017. That's a wonderful uptick. Yeah, going in the right direction. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. Yeah, maybe people, well, audiophiles anyway, are wanting to, you know, they're discovering and exploring sound on vinyl. And yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's. I think it's. I think the due to like the uptake on the vinyl sales is where people are actually starting to talk about their, especially of a certain generation, where they can actually, where especially our generation who can actually remember playing the vinyl records in the 70s and the 80s and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And they
yeah,
say that it's like you said, it's the vinyl records has a warmer sound to it.
absolutely. Everything about it. Well, yes, there's sometimes that I like the sound of a CD over vinyl, but that warmth. Most people would agree that vinyl is a much warmer sounding, and that it speaks somehow to us. The whole thing about sound waves and the way our bodies absorb it and hear it and translate it into our brains it's things we don't even know. I mean, we could get crazy into depth about certain keys that cause vibrations spiritually and in our aura. That's a whole thing that I would love to research and get into deeper. And that is very cool. But yeah, vinyl is such an awesome thing. I'm glad to see that it's having that return, and that people get that, and they love that sound quality.
Yeah. So these last couple of years, like especially over like, since the beginning of 2020, what has Gregg Fox been up to?
Well, it certainly hasn't been playing live shows, that's for sure,
Yeah.
right? So that was a pretty difficult thing for me after being in Las Vegas for 10 years and performing in so many shows and having a very successful career here in Las Vegas and touring around the country and around the world. To suddenly have no shows and have my income completely pulled from under my feet was a shocking experience. And so it was difficult to survive. Many people had to leave Las Vegas because there was no shows. I was very, very close to that point where I was literally at the point of packing up my things, going, okay, well, I don't know where I'm going to go, but it looks like I can't stay here. And I'm very happy that I survived it because of the things that have happened to me since it's been over, including doing the show with Asia and Lou Gramm down there in Phoenix, and things that are happening for Renaissance Rock Orchestra, because there's some very exciting things going on literally right around the corner that have to do with live shows. But so what I did is what any artist does. I practice and play every day, and every time that I sit down and practice, there's a new piece of material that comes out of me, and it's an amazing thing that this music. I hate to go there, but sometimes it does feel kind of divine. Like, where does this come from? How does that happen? And why is it happening now? When I first sat down to write my very first CD with Renaissance Rock Orchestra, the White Gate Trilogy, which was a 5-song EP, it was, I couldn't believe it. The first song that I wrote was a song called J.S. Rock. I'm going to talk about that as long as I've approached it at this point. J.S. Rock is a play on words because the original piece was written by Bach. Actually, not Johann Sebastian Bach, but his son, Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, wrote it. And it's a piece called Solfeggietto that most pianists learn. And a lot of concert pianists use it as a warm-up piece. But I played it my whole life, and I've always thought it would be a neat piece to use. And I took that minute-and-a-half piece and created about a 5-minute piece with a lot of new material in it. And it's a real favorite of a lot of Renaissance Rock Orchestra fans. As a matter of fact, I just posted that one on YouTube just about 3 weeks ago, I think, and it's doing pretty well. But also, you can hear that on Spotify. Please go follow us on Spotify and like and share and add it to your playlist. Spotify is a crazy animal because of the algorithms, but you can hear JS Rock there. But that was the first piece that, I mentioned earlier that when I was in Venice Beach, I started writing some of this Renaissance Rock Orchestra material. But that was not one of them. It was sitting here at my keyboard, looking out over my 30 feet of plate glass window, looking at the lights of Las Vegas, which is inspiring to me. And I think about all the people out there that are at shows and they're having a great time as I sit here and work and write my music and hope that it somehow touches them and they get to hear it someday. But that piece just, it was crazy. And I wrote that kind of as an homage to a project that tours around the United States called Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I don't think you people over there are the UK and Europe are very familiar with it. Are you familiar with
Yes, I am. Yeah, I've heard a few songs by them.
Yeah, it's very classical metal kind of thing, and they're known over here for going out and doing these Christmas shows every year. And they kind of created a new genre with what they did. And I'd gone out with my buddy, my bass player, and my best friend, Mikey Bones, who was on our first two records. Mikey passed away in 2017, unfortunately. A great, great loss, not only for me as a person, but for Renaissance Rock Orchestra, because we created this together. But him and I would go out to see these Trans-Siberian Orchestra shows. And it's a Christmas show, but it was so exciting because, I mean, there'd be 15,000 people there, 20,000 people there, little kids. This was their very first rock show. And the lights and the presentation of Trans-Siberian Orchestra is unbelievable. And the music is wonderful, too. And very, very powerful. Great, great performances, great concert experience. And little kids see this for their first show, and they're just going crazy, like, oh my God. And I love seeing that. Love seeing the newest of generations get into rock, and something that has beautiful melodies and complexity, has that classical rock thing to it also. But so that, I was looking at Mikey and we were watching these shows, and I'm thinking to myself, I could do this. I could write this kind of material. I love this kind of material. I was made to do this. I was trained to do this. And that's what I started doing with my very first song that I wrote for the first record, the Whitegate Trilogy, J.S. Rock. And that it has violins in it. So, in a lot of my pieces I use live violins and strings, cello, violas, and I write all the arrangements for that. As a matter of fact, it looks like Renaissance Rock Orchestra is going to play that song live for the public July 29th at a venue on Fremont Street here in Las Vegas. And I'm very, very, very excited to announce that. It's been a long, long time coming. Right before COVID, I had a $2 million investor to put a residency together, which has been kind of my plan and my dream for Renaissance Rock Orchestra from the start. Because these days it's difficult with an unbranded, unknown act to tour. Touring is very expensive in the first place, and if you tour on your own, nobody knows about you. How are you going to fill venues, right? So what better way to build a brand and to build a new act than to do a residency in Las Vegas, where people come from all around the world every day to see shows. So that has been my plan right from the start, and it looks like we're right on the cuffs now. Finally, after so many years. Lost a big investor before COVID, and that was a heartbreaking experience to be so close after so many years of work. And then I have to start over. And of course, in the climate that we have still with the pandemic, things, it's hard to go large and to get the big investment for an unknown band. So we're going to have to start slow, but it's going to be a fun experience as we build it, and the intimacy, and to just play these songs live. So many of our fans have for years been going, these songs need to be played live. They have that sound. They don't translate. I love it when I hear it, absolutely. Every time I play it in my car and at home, but I can't wait to hear it with the energy and the melodies that it's going to have live. But back to my COVID experience. So yes, I wrote and recorded a record called The Song of Hope 2020. I'm going to show you guys what the CD looks like here real quick. There we go. That's A Song of Hope 2020 by Renaissance Rock Orchestra. And so as I wrote this record, I was trying to write something that would speak to people and reach them, and that would have a lot of different aspects of that pandemic experience, right? I was trying to give people hope, give them inspiration, and it took a lot of work. It was difficult to do with all the things going on in COVID, all the other musicians struggling, not knowing where they're going to stay, what they're going to do, how they're going to survive. So it took a lot longer than I expected. So it ended up only being a 5-song EP, but a pretty tremendous 5-song EP. I would like to say myself, and I've been told by so many people, it has a little bit of everything. It has the title track that is a song of inspiration and hope that has reached so many people. And I already mentioned In My Love and Arms, the first song, which is obviously an uplifting and positive track. One of my favorite tracks is the third track on A Song of Hope. It's a song called Circus Life. And Circus Life is very, very Queen sounding. If it had Freddie Mercury on it, you'd think it was a Queen song. As a matter of fact, one of our guitar players, Tony Alleman from Juan Crucier's Rat, and his own band Vile Sin, did this Brian May solo in Circus Life that is really, really awesome. You know, Brian May, in a lot of his really cool solos, he would play individual notes and record them individually on individual tracks. And it just gives you this unique sound that you never hear anywhere else that any other band has ever done. Well, I know it's been done, but it was kind of Brian May's thing. And Tony did a brilliant job of writing and recording this piece. So listen to that on Circus Life. But the lyrics, the lyrics are a little bit political. You know, they're a little introspective too. It has to do with that isolation factor. It talks about sitting alone in your room, but it also talks a little bit about, you know, the world and the state of affairs that we're in. It looks like the clowns have taken over the show. So yeah, check that out. I think you'll enjoy a lot of that when you hear it, and you'll be able to relate to it a lot too. But the piece, Circus Life, talking about how it is a little bit Queen-like. You know, a lot of Queen songs were really fun and had a lot of up-tempo things that were even like ragtime. They used a lot of different styles on their records, you know, whether it would be like the vaudeville sounds of the 30s and ragtime piano pieces. So Circus Life goes through 3 different types of sections that I would compare to Bohemian Rhapsody without being so epic and so huge. It's a fun thing, so I think you'll like that. So that's what I did during COVID, Ell. I wrote new music. It was, what else am I going to do? It's the only way I could keep my sanity, right? That's what I do when times are hard, when times are good, when I'm inspired, when I'm sad. And it's a funny thing about that as a songwriter, but it seems like, I know I've heard a lot of other composers say this and songwriters, that it's kind of easier to write sad songs than it is to write happy songs. Like, because emotionally somehow you're so much more moved by tragedy and sadness, and you know it's so emotive. So yeah, so it was all those things that brought me to the COVID record, A Song of Hope 2020. I've been releasing the singles from that record kind of slowly on Spotify. So we haven't really released it as an album yet on Spotify or the digital platforms, but any digital platform that you use, you'll be able to find Renaissance Rock Orchestra, In My Love and Arms, our first release. And then I released Circus Life next just because it was so fun. I thought people would enjoy it.
Yeah. So in between this latest CD or latest album, have you been writing any more material while you've been?
I'm absolutely always writing. Yeah, every time I sit down and practice, which is almost daily, there's new material. Right now, I'm kind of in this preparation and woodshedding mode for this live show in Las Vegas, July 29th. So that's a whole thing. Please keep a lookout on all of our social media, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all Renaissance Rock Orchestra. YouTube, all Renaissance Rock Orchestra, because I'll be making these announcements probably within the next 72 hours just to confirm with people what's going on. So that's not a very long period of time to prepare all the moving chess pieces that I need, including having the bands get together and rehearse, working on string arrangements for some of the new pieces. And the show, because it is a Vegas show, is it's not all Renaissance Rock Orchestra material, because who knows Renaissance Rock Orchestra material? How am I going to fill a venue every night, with hundreds of people who, never heard of this before? So I have to create a Vegas show out of it. So the Vegas show is the world's greatest rock show. And it's a Vegas thing. And I don't mind saying that tagline because I have such amazing musicians in the band. The live show will have Brian Tichy on drums from Whitesnake and Foreigner and Billy Idol. It'll have Phil Suzanne on bass from Ozzy and Billy Idol. Our singer Mark Bowles, who I already mentioned, from Ted Nugent, Malmsteen, Dokken, and Christian Brady from Hell Yeah on guitar. Tony Allman is going to be playing guitar also. So yeah, with those kind of musicians, it's easy to call it the world's greatest rock show, because we're also, besides doing some of our material, we're going to be doing epic rock hits symphonically. I will have at least one violinist at the show doing parts, but I also have beautiful symphonic key sounds that I'm using that are enormous and really brilliant and huge. So we're doing all these songs you've heard just like them, as good or better, but in a symphonic nature. Dream On by Aerosmith, Kashmir by Led Zeppelin, a couple Queen songs. We're going to do some Deep Purple. We're going to do some of The Who. We're going to do a brilliant version of Won't Get Fooled Again. So epic rock hits is going to kind of be the Vegas show. And so I am so busy right now trying to arrange and write these string arrangements for some of the songs that we haven't done yet. You know, we're going to end off the show. You know, you want to build up big, and we want everybody to have a party there in Las Vegas, right? So it's going to be like we're going to do Jump by Van Halen. People love that. You know, I also played a show here in Las Vegas where I sub for keyboard player Michael T. Ross from Lita Ford, a show called Radiant the Rock Vault. And so I've seen, from doing the show and seen the show dozens of times, the response of audiences here in Las Vegas. They want to have fun. They want to party. So we're going to end the show with You Shook Me by ACDC. And so it is going to be an epic night. We're going to do some Pink Floyd. So yes, I am so busy trying to get all that together, to get all the printed materials together that we need, to try to get the marketing going immediately so that people know about the show, because the cost is pretty exorbitant, not only for the players and the room and the lighting and sound that I'll be bringing in for the show, but making sure that we have merch available. There's just so many moving parts, and it has to happen so fast. And thank goodness I have a team of people that help me with that, including Christina Avila from Christina Avila Artist Promotion, who is unbelievable. And thank you, Christina, for everything you do. She set this up with us today, and she's a remarkable person and a brilliant promoter. But I also have a team of gals that are my Charlie's Angels. Are you familiar with Charlie's Angels?
Yeah. The TV series and the two films.
So these girls have volunteered their time to help market and promote Renaissance Rock Orchestra, because they love the music so much, and many of them I've known for years and years and years. And the Angels, the RRO Angels, have been really helping me a lot in a lot of ways too. So that includes Sherry and Serene and Helen and Mickey. And it's really nice to have a group of people trying to help with so many things. For so many years, I've been wearing all the hats. I've been the songwriter. I've been the producer. I've been the engineer. I've been the string arranger. I've been the marketer, the social media person, the PR guy, the manager, the agents. And it's so difficult to do all those things. So it's nice now that I do have a team of people, including the Angels and Christina. And of course, I have my guys from Megatrend Management and Sage Management out in LA, Mike Rosen and Steven Rosen, and they are not brothers, strangely enough. So they help a lot. And then my agent here in town, Brian Towers, who over the years has managed Rick Springfield, Ronnie Montrose, the Great Kin Band. It goes on and on and on. So yes, having this group of people help put this together, thank you all, and it's so nice to have people help pick up, grab the ball and run with it. So yeah, on the writing and recording of new material, I have so much new material. I probably have at least 2 more records, not in the can, but in my brain. Partially recorded. Some of the keyboards are recorded, but my plan is that as I dole out these tracks from our latest record, A Song of Hope 2020, that 4 or 5 months from now I'll have a new song recorded, and so we will start releasing new material, which will probably be A Song of Hope Volume 2. because before I moved to our fourth record, I guess it will be at that point. I'd like to finish off a song of hope. I wanted it to be a full 10 songs. I want to talk about our last record, the record before our newest one, real quickly too, because it's such a remarkable record. It's called In Times of Olde. And on the album cover, I have all the artists that are on it. It has 27 rock stars on it. So it's an amazing, amazing record with the combination of talent and people from rock history that are on it. I have 9 different drummers: Vinny Appice from Black Sabbath and Dio, Simon Wright from ACDC, Alan White from Yes, Brent Fitz from Alice Cooper and from Slash, Roxy Petrucci from Vixen. Very, very cool thing. And I know I forgot somebody in there, Ben Smith from Heart. An amazing list of drummers. I have guitar players like George Lynch from Dokken and Lynch Mob, one of the top guitar players in the world. I have Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and now with Cher. He's been with Cher for the last couple of years too. Unbelievable guitar tracks. Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses plays on a track on In Times of Olde that will blow your mind. It's just really amazing. I have 3 different singers. It includes Mark Bowles, our singer that did the entire Song of Hope record, who's going to be doing the show with us, all of our live shows. But In Times of Olde, I had Robin McCauley do 3 tracks. Robin McCauley from McCauley Schenker Group, and he's been touring with Michael Schenker for several years now. And just in the last couple of years, he has a couple new projects called Black Swan, and his own solo project now on Frontiers Records too, that's doing remarkably well. But he was also in Survivor, so Robin has just a beautiful, amazing voice too. And let's see, I also have Tony Harnell from TNT. Are you familiar with TNT, Ell?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's only like a small, only know like a couple of songs by them, but I do know of them.
Yeah. The last song on In Times of Olde is called The Maker of Dreams. It's an epic progressive metal piece that's it's like almost a 10-minute piece, and it has several different movements, and that has Tony Harnell on it. And wow, it'll blow your socks off. I have a singer from Phoenix by the name of Brett Kaiser, who had a band Kaiser, and remarkable voice. He sings on My Lonely Heart. All of those songs are available on Spotify and any digital streaming platform, whether it's Apple Music, whatever you listen to. Check that out. In Times of Olde is, it's a heavier record than my new record. It's more metal. One of the reasons I wanted to bring it up, you're going to hear all kinds of things on that. You're going to hear things that sound like Iron Maiden, that sound like Black Sabbath. For the metal people, they're going to love In Times of Olde, and particularly all the rock stars that are on that record. It's brilliant, beautiful. Steve Conley from Flotsam and Jetsam did a lot of the rhythm guitars on that record. So pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're doing like a 2-date show in Vegas?
It's not the show we're doing. You're talking about?
Yeah. Is it like a two show? Yeah, like 2-date.
It is. We're at this point. The show that we're doing is we're hoping that it turns into a residency, a long-term thing.
Yeah.
I want to do it at least one night a week, if not a couple nights a week. I think it may turn into Thursdays and Fridays in September. But right now the showcase premiere release on Fremont Street. It's going to be in a venue there called Notoriety, and it's a new place. A lot of people don't know, but it's a great little club, and I'm sure that we're going to be certainly shooting and filming, but it's going to be a pretty fun red carpet event, and I certainly hope that we get a lot of good response. I know a lot of people from LA, industry people, are going to come out, and a lot of investors. So, it's going to be a fun thing.
Yeah, you said you just mentioned there you're going to be trying to film some of the show. Are you thinking about releasing that as a DVD?
Yes, I think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm sure that we will get there and get that. Yeah, it's content is so important, and that's one of the things that that is frustrating for me trying to create YouTube videos right now is I'm trying to create YouTube videos without having a band that has done live shows for the last couple of years, right? So yeah, it's going to be so exciting to have that content and to probably do a 3-camera shoot, I think. And wow, it's going to be great to have really good looking HD of this live show with a lot of the Renaissance Rock Orchestra material. That almost makes me wish we were doing more RRO songs. Maybe I'll have to try to talk the guys into doing that. The thing is, it's coming up so fast and it's so difficult to really rehearse music of this complexity. It's challenging. So to do a lot of RRO material is a little out of reach for us. But I know that we're going to continue on as the show continues to grow, to add more and more Renaissance Rock Orchestra material. And of course, as the awareness of our fans, friends, and the public at large becomes aware of the Renaissance Rock Orchestra, that they're going to want to hear more of that. That's an interesting thing about this project, that what we have, besides a Vegas show, that we are an original act, that is a unique thing. That a lot of the Vegas shows don't have that, and that's something Renaissance Rock Orchestra certainly does, and what we're all about, and that's where we're going long term. But for the time being, let's just get some of the music out there in front of the people and have some fun and play some rock and roll and develop the show, develop the residency. And I certainly hope at some point that this show will be a full orchestra in a large showroom, or the Smith Center, possibly a large performing arts center that does nothing but our own material. That would obviously be the goal. When you hear the music, you know that has always been the vision of Gregg Fox. It's there's no question about it.
Yeah, well, would you once it's all polished and you're getting everything in place, would you want to actually take it out on the road, like to do a full blown tour?
I would love to take it out on the road, but touring is just so expensive, and I already mentioned, it's difficult to do that with an unknown band. Now, when we get signed with a record label, which we're not at this point, we're still independent. I believe that, and that's really the only reason that I would probably want to go with a record label. Many people these days go, why do you need a label? Everything is out there on the internet to promote it yourself, to distribute it yourself. But I really believe that having that right label that can distribute it worldwide and give it the kind of branding that it needs on all their social media. Many of these record labels have millions, of course, of followers that see all their releases. Some of the smaller labels even have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers, and that's what the Renaissance Rock Orchestra needs. But I would probably need that before we would be able to actually take it out and do a tour with it. That being said, this is an important thing I'm about ready to say, because I need your help, all of you across the pond. Yeah, because one of my goals has always been to do festivals in the UK and in Europe. And it's another great way to brand the band, and I need that. And I would certainly do that, and we would make that happen. And I know that, all those festivals, this material, there's something about the sound and the style of this genre of Renaissance Rock Orchestra. It's more European than it is, the people in the United States. Yeah, we love metal, we love rock and roll, but we don't have as many festivals and as large a festivals as you guys have over there. So yes, somebody hooked me up. I know somebody out there knows somebody at one of those festivals, and we need to get a booking, or a management company or touring company that deals with those shows. And I promise you, I will give you the most powerful group of artists and the most powerful rock and metal music that you'll ever hear. And it's great that everybody in Europe loves rock and roll and rock music still so much. Rock music, even though we really have a hard time here in the United States because we're inundated by so much crap, but you don't hear rock on terrestrial radio in the U.S. Very much. I mean, certainly you do on certain stations, and there's some new offerings out there that are really good. Some 500 Death Punch. I have to put a plug in for them, being a Las Vegas group. But Anyway, yes, that our genre it fits the European and UK model so much better than most of the states. We just can't get the draw here. We don't have the huge festivals. A few, but not very many.
Yeah, yeah. So, ooh. um, you mentioned a couple of your social media platforms, such as like Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. Is there anything else? Any other platforms that you're on?
You know, we're on LinkedIn, also LinkedIn, but primarily, I mean, those are the important. Well, yeah, we actually started to TikTok. Hell, oh gosh, Lord help me, we started to TikTok. I didn't want to do it. The record label people we've been shopping with said you have to do a TikTok. You have to start a TikTok. I just started this like 2 weeks ago, and it is so much work building all this content. You know, I release videos every Tuesday and every Friday on YouTube, and there's times I spend 10 hours the night before. I'm often, I'll start this at 8 o'clock at night and I'll be working till 6 a.m. in the morning to try to create this YouTube video. Content is difficult. It's creating good content I'm certainly no video producer, and I do it all myself. But so that's another thing I need help with at some point soon. But so yeah, we're on TikTok too. Yeah, please follow us and check out our stuff on TikTok. But it's a funny thing. Most of our fans and followers that are not of the younger generation necessarily are Facebook people. And it's really hard. Most of them really haven't made that switch to Instagram. And it's a funny thing. I have a lot of friends that are on Instagram, but the majority of my Facebook followers are not. But I would say Instagram is a good place to go because it's so much easier to develop content, and so I put more things there on Instagram. Multiple things daily about what we're doing, what I'm recording, live music, interviews. So Instagram is a very, very fun thing. If you're not on it, I recommend it. I think you're going to enjoy it. There's a lot of good content there. And Facebook, their policies have just been choking the distribution so badly that nobody sees it if you put it on Facebook. Unless I go to your Facebook and I comment and like on everything you post, you're not going to see my things. And I just don't have time. I love you all dearly. I love all my friends. I wish I could go to each one of your Facebooks and like and comment, but I'm pretty busy building a show and building a brand and doing content on YouTube and writing songs and recording records. So so that's one of my problems with Facebook. But please go there. Please follow. We need to get those numbers up on Facebook, Renaissance Rock Orchestra. These are the kind of things that get us the record label and the distribution we need. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the algorithms these days. It's all about the social media. And that's one of the things that is holding us back because our numbers are not quite there. They're building. We're doing well. But, we really need to have it about 10 times what it is right now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Pretty much the last question of this interview. And I always ask this to every musician that I've been interviewing. Is any advice for people who want to become a musician?
Become a doctor. Become a lawyer. Start your own internet company. No. I obviously think it's so important for young people to have music in their lives and to develop skills and talents in music. I mean, we've lost all of our music programs in our schools in our country, or the majority of them. So, and it's such an important part of who we are as a world, a culture. So we need to have more music and train our children to write and to express themselves artistically in so many ways. But for those of you that are dead set on doing this, the first important thing, of course, is to develop your craft and your skills. You have to be able to rise above millions of other people. to gain any traction and to do well in some way. It doesn't mean you need to be the best guitar player in the world, the best keyboard player in the world, the best bass player or drummer, or the best singer. But you certainly do have to be different. You have to have your a message that is unique and different. I think that's something that Renaissance Rock Orchestra has. You don't see very much metal or symphonic metal out there these days that really offers you any inspiration or hope, or that is about positive things. You know, it's also dark and angry, and I won't necessarily say evil, but there's that too. But so yes, hone your craft to be good at what you do. You have to be one of the best. It's important that you study the instruments and the technology that's available out there, because your sound needs to be the best. You need to know how to create the best sound available, whether you're performing live or whether you're recording, and learn whatever platform you need to use to record your own music. Write, always, every day. That's one of the most important things, to write music. A lot of it, always, everything you feel. Get better at it. Develop your writing skills, your recording skills. That's a super huge thing. It's part of who you are. It's part of what's going to create whatever your persona and your musical message is. And then of course the last thing is play live all the time, any opportunity that you have, because the most important thing as a artist is to connect with people and to be able to perform live and connect with your audience and to give them something, to give them that thing they need when they go see live music. They want a message. They want that inspiration. They want that energy. They want to hear the music, all those things. You can just stand there and play it, and they'll still enjoy it. But if you want to do well and separate yourselves, develop this connection with your audience. Find a way to talk to them, to speak with them, to connect with them, even if it's just eye contact. When I do a show, I try to make sure that I literally look at as many faces as I can and smile at them and connect with them at that moment, whatever that part I am, that song I'm playing is. So yes, practice, write, play. I'll leave it at that. That seems like a pretty good tutorial, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think I said it all there, Elle. What do you think?
Yeah, you did, yeah. Sound advice. Sound advice. Right, thank you, Greg. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me this past hour.
It was fun. I enjoyed our conversation, and I apologize for babbling on and on and on and on like I do, but I'm very excited. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I really appreciate you sharing that with your fan base and your people. So,
my pleasure.
Go listen to some music, folks. Please go to YouTube. Please subscribe. And please go to Spotify and add my music to your playlist. Makes a huge difference. I really need those numbers to get up there, so like and follow. Ell, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for spreading the music and spreading the metal, man.
Yeah, and thank you. Thank you for everything we've done these so many years. So thank you, and thank you for coming on.
Absolutely, Ell. It was a real pleasure.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody, in Project Metal Music.